Watch this video to find out how we install this Smittybilt air compressor into our 2020 Sprinter van. And it lives right here. You can use an ARB air compressor with a readily available mount specific to this vehicle, but it puts the compressor where we've already taken up the space with our furnace. So that wasn't an option for us. But if you want a cheaper solution, a DIY solution, watch this video. I'm going to mount our compressor here, above the ECU. This is the compressor that we have. It's made by Smittybilt, and it comes in this okay-ish bag, but as you can see, it's already starting to fall apart. And we really haven't used it that much. We've only had it for a few months. But this compressor is great. I really like it. Usually if we air down to like, I think like typically like 20-25 PSI, somewhere around there in the front and the rear, this compressor will fill the tires back up to, I think they run at 55 and 65 PSI when we're on the road. It's a little under a minute per tire, so we can get them aired up pretty quickly with this thing. But most of the time is just getting the compressor out and setting it up. So I think if we can mount this permanently, we'll be able to fill up that much faster. It'll just be easier, and we'll also get the storage space for this compressor back in our trunk. So as you can see, this compressor fits in here with tons of room. So I think it's going to work out well. Then I can hardwire it, and all we'll have to do is connect the hose to it and connect it to the tire and flip the switch on, and we'll be good to go. What I'm going to do, I'm going to use these two bolts for the hood hinge because this is a solid mounting point here, and I will come down with a flange and then across above the ECU, and then I will go down. We've got a bolt there for our auxiliary shocks that I can pick up and put a nut on there so it'll have a leg down at the bottom. Hopefully that's sturdy enough. So this should be everything I need here. We've obviously got the compressor, and I've got some, I think this is 1/8 inch steel, if I remember correctly. You guys have seen this stuff in other parts of this van build. Click here if you want to see that. I've got some layout tools here so that I can measure dimensions for the bracket, lay them out, scribe them. This also has a scribing tool built in here. That's what that little gold knob is. If you never knew, use that to scratch the steel, and then you use this to cut it out. We're at Andrew's today because I need to use this press brake to bend the bracket, and it's a good workspace. He's got a whole garage full of excellent fabrication tools, and I might need him to do some more welding for us. I've got drills and a drill to drill the bolt holes, and I got a step drill here because these are fantastic. I've got a deburr tool so that you can clean up all the edges of the sheet metal after you cut it out. I got a clamp because I don't know if I might need to clamp it down to cut it out, and a hammer. Hammer's good for center punching your holes, and I got the appropriate size 15mm wrench to take the hood hinge bolts out. And let's get started. So we're gonna go about 7 inches that way, because that'll pick up both of those bolt holes here and here. This is just a ground stud, so we're just gonna put a clearance hole for that so we can still get to it. And then we're gonna come out. A foot looks like it's too long, so since this is just gonna be an L-shaped bracket like this, I can cut both flanges long and then cut them shorter until they fit into the space. If you make it too short, it's hard to add the material back on without a welder. Okay, so I've got my cardboard pattern here, and now, like I said, it should be way too big to fit, but I can slowly trim away until it does fit. So here you can see we're hitting the brake lines. I should have taken out about half that, but that's okay. This is why we do a stencil with cardboard only. And I've got to cut this guy back on this angle. we're also crashing into the headlight. So I'm gonna cut a little bit out of here, and I'm gonna cut this on this angle. So as you can tell, it's a whole bunch of trial and error. Test, and then trim, and then test and trim, but we're getting closer for sure. And I can take a whole bunch off of here. Okay, now we're getting somewhere pretty close. And see, this is not big enough to mount our compressor, but that's okay because I can just measure this distance and I can write myself a note on this edge that I need to add material for whatever this is, 4 inches. So then when I trace this pattern onto the steel, I just add 4 inches there. And then I can add 3 inches out that way. I do still want to trim a little bit more. I can take off this edge some, and I don't think I need to come quite so far forward here. We're still contacting the headlight, so I obviously need to trim a little bit more, but I'm getting pretty close. And I think you guys can see I'm a little bit short here. I cut off too much material, but same thing. I'll just add 2 inches or whatnot to get up there. And I would like to scoop out here so we don't come anywhere near those wires. But that's the general process. And here's how it looks out of the van. And that's how the compressor will sit on there. So I made another pattern with the added material just to triple check my measurements and everything, make sure everything's going to be good, and this is what it looks like in the van. And because there's a wire harness that runs right here, it's actually going to be 2 bends that are less than 90. This one will probably be, I don't know, say 85 degrees, and then this one will be about 5 degrees. Just because we can't quite get all the way against the wall and be vertical. So let's put a slight bend to pull it away from the wire harness so we don't hit it. So now I've got my cardboard pattern made out of steel. And I just went around and I deburred all of the edges. Now I got to figure out where exactly the bends need to be. I think it's that, and then that. I need to transfer to here and then get this thing bent up. And I've also got to put this hole in to clearance the ground stud. I want to make that hole much bigger. So it's hard to tell if it's exactly 90 because it's so tall, but it looks really close. Let's see how we did here. That looks pretty nice to me. I gotta figure out how to locate these bolt holes. I wasn't even recording. What the heck? I just put my cardboard template back on here and I tapped with my little plastic mallet on the bolt heads like that to transfer these 2 bolts that I'm going to use to mount the bracket to the back side of my cardboard. Yeah, you guys can see there's a bolt head right there and there's one right there. So now I gotta go transfer these to the steel. I haven't got a center punch on me, but in a pinch a Phillips screwdriver will work. Just make sure you don't use one that you really care about, because it will blunt the end over time. Noise. I just gotta drill those out. I just gotta make up a leg to support it because it does have a little bit of bounce, even though that's 1/8 inch steel. So I repeated the same test fitting process for the leg, which will support the rest of the bracket, and this is kind of what I came up with. I didn't show it on video because it's underneath the other bracket, so it's really hard for me to even see anything, let alone the camera. But this picks up the bolt that I pointed out earlier, and then this will get bent as such and welded to the bottom of the other bracket, and that should support most of the weight of that compressor. This 4-bolt pattern is for the compressor feet, and the Smittybilt compressor came with these this mounting hardware. It's got rubber feet that sandwich the mounting plate. Now I'm going to mount the compressor to here to make sure that my holes are spaced good and that this is all going to work. Ta-da! I mean, you guys have seen me work before. You knew this was going to work before I tried it, but now you know for sure. So we've got the 2 pieces. They're not painted yet, but they're otherwise finished. Installed here. The leg is bolted, and this compressor mounting bracket is also bolted, but I need to bolt the 2 pieces together because they move. And I can't really see exactly where they intersect, but I've traced the support leg onto a piece of our cream carton, and that's the shape of the mating surface. Now I just need to measure where it is relative to this edge, and I can lay this on there to see where it actually lays, and it's about there somewhere, and then I can drill 2 holes to bolt them together. This is the location of the leg underneath this plate. I think, yeah, you guys can see that. I've traced it with pencil. I don't know if the camera is going to pick that up or not, but trust me, it's there. And yesterday at Tractor Supply, we picked up a couple of 1/4-20 bolts and nuts and washers so that we can sandwich these 2 together. So I'm going to drill a couple of holes, put those something like that. So we've got our mount in there, and I'm gonna bolt our compressor down on there. I gotta use these little rubber feet, and that's gonna be it for this location. We'll do the wiring at our next stop. So here's a look at the compressor bolted in there. It's got a little bit of movement, but I think it will be fine. I haven't really made any big changes, but I did cut off some extra bracket because it used to come out to about here and it was really doing nothing, so I took it back to the edge of the compressor foot, and over here I just kind of neatened this up so it's just a straight shot all the way across there, because again, that was just extra bracket that was not doing anything. And I have sanded all of these faces, and I've got some alcohol to clean the metal, some primer to put down, and then some semi-gloss black paint to make it look nice and nice. So I'm going to do that now. I'll probably time-lapse this because maybe you guys want to see that, I don't know. And then I've got to work on wiring this thing, which I haven't exactly figured out yet, but I've got a rough idea, so keep watching. Started wiring the compressor. So this is just sitting in here without the bracket. Bottom driver's side corner of the windshield, there's this like bag that's got a zip tie on it, and if you cut the zip tie, inside there you can feel a foam donut, and if you pass your wire through the inside of the foam donut, then you've got a nice watertight pass-through when you put a zip tie back on here and cinch this bag closed. So now I have to make this wire path nice and neat. Now you can see wires that I've run here previously for something. I'm not quite sure that these are going to be long enough to come all the way down. Let's see. I may have to extend them a little bit, but we can make a rough guess. Yeah, it's going to be too short, I think. But I'm only going to need to extend them probably a foot or so. Maybe 2. Well, let's do that now while I'm waiting for paint to dry. Here's the tip. If you gotta splice multiple wires at the same approximate location, I like to stagger them just by like the length of the butt connector, so that way when you bundle them up, there's not one really fat bulge. It's just it gets a little bit fatter but over a longer stretch. It just makes it the harnessing a little bit neater. But I've got that done, and I'm just kind of snaking my wires down here. I gotta pull this trim piece out so that I can run the wires underneath there, and then I believe I can come up into the battery box, or not the battery box, I can come up into this seat base thing at the floor level, like right about here, if I remember correctly. I think, yeah, you can see I've already run a wire through there. There's a big gap there, so you can run wires through there. I got to terminate the ground, power, and then get all of this interior back together. Then hopefully the paint will be dry and I can install the compressor for the last time and be done with this. I got all my trim back together here. The wire path is basically, it comes through the firewall about here, and it comes straight back, and then it sweeps down right behind this panel and right behind this lower panel. And then right there, the two wires enter the seat base. Can you see it better through here? Not really. And for now, they're right here. I gotta figure out where to terminate them. But the ground stud is right underneath this sort of carriage thing. If you take that, there's a nut right here in this leg. If you take that out, there's a ground stud right behind it. I don't know if you can see it. There's a few grounds on there already. You can just kind of pull it out of the way and get your ground terminal over there. I've got my ground wire connected underneath this carriage, and that's bolted down again. And this is where I got power from. There's a stud right there that has 12 volt constant power supply. You can see I got two wires going to it because we also powered our powered retractable steps off of that same stud. You can watch that in a different video. But that's where we've got power. We've got ground going to our air compressor, which is located under the hood. So let's say we've got a flat tire. All we gotta do is open up the hood, take off this little Velcro strap, and we can pull out our air hose. And if we need to, we can extend our air hose with this guy. And now this will reach all four corners of the van. Screw this guy right onto our tire. Now all you gotta do is hit the button. And now we got a full tire. And that's about it. If you like this video, then like this video. If you wanna see more like it, then let us know. If you don't want to watch it ever again, let us know. Until next time, thanks for stopping by.